أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you so much for inviting me this evening to this conference. I was impressed arriving, getting so many people and in such a well-organized event. So thank you once again for that. The topic, and as we have not much time to deal with the whole perspective when it comes to extremism and the necessity for unity in our community as Muslims and as brothers and sisters in Islam. Let me just say a few things when it comes to the way we have to deal with this dimension. Because very often what we hear today, and especially not only in the West, but around the world now, is that Muslims in general, we have a problem with extremism, and very often extremism is connected to us, fundamentalism, and our religion as Muslims. Now, we have to be quite clear on something which is, of course, there are ideologies and there are people, you know, we heard just Ken Livingstone speaking about some of the intellectuals that are now creating a new enemy and saying in the coming future, what we'll have is to face Muslims and Islam, and there will be a clash of civilizations. And within the Western civilization, what we have also is people who are nurturing that. And that's for sure a reality. We have ideologies and we have trends. We have populists. We have the Tea Parties in the States. We have political parties here in the UK, around Europe. There is something which is called Islamophobia, and it's true that extremism is the way, and violent religion is the way Islam is portrayed today. Now, let us come to our understanding, and sometimes what we have to do is to have normative definitions when it comes to that. Normative definitions of what could be in our mind extremism and what we have to do within. Because it's true that people are using this against the Muslims, but it's true that some Muslims today have a problem in the way they understand their religion. And I would just, because I don't have much time, just try to define extremism in three ways. And say this is from us, from within, as Muslims, the reality that we have to deal with and that we have to be clear about it. Let me tell you something just before this as an introduction, because just before coming, I was following the news and what is said in the States and in Europe about the death of Ariel Sharon. And we have people today claiming that they are Democrats and they are yesterday celebrating Nelson Mandela, his values and struggle, that today are, and this is complete hypocrisy. This guy should have been in the penal court, International Penal Court, for crimes against humanity. This is not, we can't, this is an extremist. This is a true extremist. No, I have a fatwa. A personal fatwa is just when I'm talking, I don't like clapping. So take it as a fatwa, and as I'm saying, it's not a religious fatwa. It's an intellectual fatwa. Listen to talks as if you were reading books, and you don't clap when you like an idea, when you read books. So I'm saying this because I see people today celebrating the memory of this guy and say, what's that? What is happening? And the people are telling us democracy, moderation, and you pay tribute to someone who did what he did, and he was completely involved in Sabra and Shatila. Not only that, killing civilians. accepting torture, summary executions. So we have to be clear on who are the extremists, and not only as Muslims to be on the defensive and say, okay, you are apologizing and we want to please the people. No, sometimes we have to be clear when we are facing Zionism and the way they are dealing with people and what was done in the name of this state. We have to be clear. There is something which is called state terrorism, and there is something which is called extremism when we are dealing with people like that. Let us be clear on that. Now we come to ourselves. And I would say three things. I want to define three types of extremism, and we have to deal with that. The first thing is a kind of the arrogant mind. As Muslims, we know that one of the names of Allah is Al-Haq, the truth. And what is clear for us is that we belong to the truth, but truth does not belong to us. So no one has the right as a human being to speak in God's name and to say, this is it because I know it, I am with God. No. You say what you say, and then at the end you add, Wallahu a'lam, Wallahu ahkam, Wallahu a'la. Meaning that I'm doing what I can with my knowledge, so I don't have the truth, I have an opinion, I'm trying to get close to the truth, but I'm not speaking in God's name, judging the people and deciding now who is going to go to hell and who is going to go to paradise. You know why? Because no one knows here if he or she is going to paradise. Just come and tell me, I'm going. You can't. So when we are dealing with opinions, the extremists sometimes have an arrogant mind, and they speak as Muslims as if they knew, as if they have the final word, the final understanding, because they are so knowledgeable, or because they think Islam is the truth, so I am with the truth, so I'm right. No, Islam is the truth, you are with the truth, but you can be wrong. So extremism is to look at the world in this arrogant state of mind, mindset, which is not acceptable from an Islamic viewpoint. That even the Prophet ﷺ was challenged by companions coming to him saying, is this a revelation or is this your opinion? If this is the revelation, we don't talk. But if this is your opinion, we have a say. We have something to share. We have something to add, because you are a human being when it comes to you, the worldly affairs. So this is the first thing which is important in our understanding, and we have to be careful, because some of our brothers and sisters, sometimes in the way they deal with Islam, it's as if there is no room for other perspective. No, your understanding, it's maybe just an interpretation. There are things that are qat'i, when we say praying is praying, that al-aqidah, these are things that are important, that there is only one God is not disputable. Now, many things in our life have to do with interpretation. So the arrogant mind is one dimension. The second is also something which is problematic, is the dogmatic mind. And the dogmatic mind is not only to speak, or it's not to speak in God's name as if you know the truth, is to look at the things only from one angle. Meaning, from where I'm looking at the situation, I have the final word. So this is a dogmatic mind. The dogmatic mind is always binary. Binary means I'm right, so you are wrong. So my viewpoint is the right one. And as a Muslim, or when I am in the situation, and you be careful, these are not ignorant people. You can be very sophisticated and still dogmatic. Because the way you look at things with your knowledge, once again, is not in God's name, is as a human being, but you look at things only from your perspective. You don't have different angles. So from where you see things, it could be right, but there are other angles, other viewpoints that could be right. So the dogmatic mind is a binary mind. I'm right, of course, from where I look at things. And sometimes also confusing the references that when we are dealing with politics, when we are dealing with societies, there are different strategies. So from where you look at things, that might be one way of looking at things, but you don't have all the dimensions. And this is something that we have to deal with, because some of our brothers and sisters, they have dogmatic minds. And they are very literalist in the way sometimes they read the books. They read the scripture, Al-Quran wa Sunnah, the Quran and the prophetic tradition. And sometimes they are very literalist in the way they look at the situation. As if today when you look, the Middle East is very complex. You can't get an understanding of what is happening in the Middle East only from one angle. You need diversity of angles. You need to listen to people coming from different sides, different understanding, and then you can get an understanding. So this is the dogmatic mind. And the last one is simplistic mind. And the simplistic mind is just to look at things very superficially. And we have some brothers and sisters, and be careful now, we are in a time when the people are saying, you know what, you should let the people go to the Quran and make their own interpretations. They say, that's fine. When it comes to your spirituality, your relationship with God, with Allah, you are free to go to the Quran. But be careful. When it comes to understanding the text, when it comes to understanding the prophetic tradition, you can't just go like this, take a verse, take a hadith, and explain Islam from this very superficial and through this very superficial understanding. Simplistic minds could end up with something which is only one dimension. So now what we have is some of our brothers and sisters in Islam, in the way they look at things, it's very legalistic. Halal, haram, halal. No, halal, haram is one dimension, but you will get halal, haram if you add the meaning. You need to understand what you are doing. In Islam, understanding, iqra means read. It means listen. It means understand what you are doing. Understand what you are saying. Understanding it's important. So it's not only legal. It's not halal, haram. You need to add the meaning. And then you need to understand the objectives. Why do you do this? Even Allah, when He's talking about praying in the Quran, said, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِ. You pray to remember me. It means there are objectives. There are causes and reasons. And there are meanings. Not only rules. Not only judgment. So not having the whole understanding that some of our brothers and sisters, after 2 weeks, they come to you and they can tell you halal, haram, kafir. You say, come on, who are you? What is this very superficial understanding of Islam? This is dogmatic, this is arrogant sometimes, and sometimes it's completely simplistic. In Islam, all these minds have to be reformed, and we have to understand our religion with avoiding arrogance, it means humility, avoiding the arrogance versus modesty and humility. The second mind is dogmatic, is to be open, because in Islam there is an accepted diversity. And the third one is knowledge versus simplistic mind. Having said that, now in our Islam, we always refer, and I will come to my conclusion with this, we always refer to one of the verses. One of the verses who are telling us from the very beginning that we have to follow the middle path. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. We made you the nation of the middle path. And we are sometimes translating this by moderation versus extremism. Extremism, no simplicity, no simplistic. Yes for simplicity, but not for simplism. You have to avoid arrogance, and you have to avoid the dogmatic mind. You have to come with a deep understanding of your religion. Having said that, what is important from what is this middle path? Because you can think that I am in the middle path, and you can come to the middle path with a simplistic mind, and you can come to the middle path with a dogmatic mind, and you can come to the middle path as an arrogant mind. As Muslims, we have to understand that the middle path is based on knowledge, on humility and openness. Openness to what? Saying the Quran is al-Quran, al-halal halal, wal-haram haram. We know that. So we agree on some common principles. Now we should understand that the path of Islam is a path which is a wide, broad path where there is an accepted diversity. And the starting point is to be clear. Whatever is your political opinion, or your political understanding in what is happening today in the world, Shia and Sunni are Muslims, and we are brothers and sisters in Islam. This is the starting point of everything. Don't let politics divide us. Now, we are not going to agree on many things. And even between Sunni and even between Shia, we are not going to agree. But in Islam, we accept that there is a path where in the name of La ilaha illallah, we are brothers and sisters in Islam. Now, within the Shiite tradition, and the Sunni tradition, they are schools of law. There is a diversity of understanding. So this is why, as Muslims, we have to acknowledge this. I'm trying my best to come close to what I think is the truth, but I understand that in legal terms, when it comes to understanding the way I have to live my life, I understand that there are many interpretations on some of the rules, even between Hanafi, Shafi'i, Sunni. In the Sunni tradition, we have this. And in between the Shia, we have this. So the point is that our understanding of Islam is that it's a path towards Allah, towards God, which is wide, accepting diversity. So it means no dogmatic mind. And it means humility. When every scholar is ending his fatwa, his legal opinion, by saying, Allahu A'lam, it means, I think I'm right, but I may be wrong. This is what it means. It means I may be wrong. I don't have the truth. I'm trying to come close to the truth. If you stop and end with Allahu A'lam, means many other opinions are available that could be better than mine. I'm trying my best. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if you struggle to get the right answer, you will get 2 rewards. If you are wrong, you will get 1. Meaning, struggle, strive, exert yourself to try to find the right answer on this, which is now very important. So this diversity is the very essence of moderation. It has to do with no arrogance, and then to understand no simplistic answer. Try to get the complexity of the message, because the complexity of the message, for example, even if you have to deal with one legal opinion in Islam, there is no way you can get the legal opinion if you don't put this in perspective in history. Why? Because the Quran was revealed over 23 years. So you need to get this. And now you get the asbab al-nuzul, the reasons for the revelation. So you get different interpretations. So it's complex. And as it is complex, it needs knowledge. And as it needs knowledge, no simplistic mind. And no arrogance, humility, and then openness to others. So get me right now. Unity in Islam will be always against trying to get uniformity. Unity is not uniformity. Unity, and the strength of unity is accepting diversity and being respectful towards other opinions. So the power of unity is based, and the foundations of this unity is managing diversity. If you don't manage diversity, you are going to be the victim of divisions. Divisions is a non-managed diversity. In Islam, we have this managed diversity. We need to deal with that. And it means that we have to educate ourselves. In fact, the power of unity is based on, why Ibrahim alayhi salam was an ummah. Meaning you have to reconcile yourself with yourself. And this reconciliation with yourself is all based on a spiritual struggle. And the spiritual struggle is, I'm trying my best, is to manage. The problem is the ego. When you have a strong ego, it's very difficult to listen to others. So the first dimension is manage your ego, control your ego, master your ego. Imsik alayka lisanak. Check your tongue. Be careful with what you say. And this struggle towards humility is the starting point of managing diversity and getting strong unity. Managing diversity, getting strong unity. And the last 2 things that I wanted to say here is that even with our principles, we have to be clear in our principles, but we should not confuse principles and models in history. We have strategies, and we may have religious diversity when it comes to the way we implement the rules. We can have political diversity in the way we understand the world, even in what is happening now in the world. I know that I don't agree with many of you here on what is happening in the Middle East, but it doesn't mean that we are not brothers and sisters in Islam. First, now my respect towards you is not to remove from you the fact that you belong to Islam. It's in the name of our common belonging to Islam, let us sit and talk and exchange views and be clear on that. Why? Because the shaitanu shaghal, even in our mosque. Why the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, put your shoulder against the shoulder of your brother or your sister. Why? Because the shaitan is even in the mosque. What does it mean? It means he is ready for division. He is ready for division amongst yourselves as Muslims. So in the mosque, not outside, in the mosque, he is ready. So you have to be ready. How? By understanding that our brotherhood and our sisterhood should be strong. Now you should accept the diversity of political, religious, cultural, economic thinking. This is where we are strong as Muslims. So avoiding all the three dimensions of extremism, coming to this strong understanding of unity as Muslims, being able to talk about everything, open up, open your mind, open the spaces where we can talk as Muslims. It's not imposing unity, is not unity, it's imposition, it's dictatorship. That's not going to work. It was never the way of the Prophet ﷺ. All the companions around the Prophet ﷺ, they were able to express themselves. So let the people express, but let us be clear. Get the priorities, your brotherhood. First, your relationship to Allah. First, reforming yourself. You are not going to deal with the opinions of the others if you don't deal with yourself, your own ego. Because dealing with, arrogance, the starting point is this. It's the ego. So then you come to this understanding as Muslims. And let me say something. We are, and this is my conclusion, we are facing very difficult time. I think that for the first time in history, it's at that level, international, global level, that we might be divided on the basis of Shia and Sunni. For the first time in my life, I saw scholars that I was respecting, and I'm still respecting them for many, many things, but on this, I see them going very far in rejecting on both sides. Between Shia and Sunni, Sunni and Shia, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And we have to be very clear. This is where we are going to be divided, and this is where we are going to be very weak. And we know that. The best is divide and rule, and what is happening in the Middle East now is unsettled, scattered, no unity, a perception that we are against each other. We have to be very careful. Doesn't mean that we have to be all agreeing on what is happening, but we have to at least not to reject each other and to accept that we are all Muslims and in fact that we have common enemies. Yes, we have common enemies. We have a state in the Middle East that is playing and now taking advantage of what is happening. Of course we know that. And we know that there are forces that are ready to divide us. So we have to be a bit clever on that, a bit aware of what is happening, with a kind of understanding. So this political awareness, it's important. So spiritual strength, intellectual openness, and political understanding are things that are required by Muslims. And let me tell you something, and I end this. You are very happy listening to Ken Livingstone saying that the Muslims, they feel British. Let me tell you something. That's fine. Feel British. I want you to feel human beings. I want you to get out of this victim mentality, thinking it's happening there and we have no responsibility here. The struggle starts here. If with our freedom, with our knowledge, with our means, we are not ready to struggle for a strong unity based on openness, accepted diversity, and to be courageous enough to say to some governments, to say to some scholars, we are sorry, what you are doing is not right. If we are not committed as citizens, there is no way for you just to sit down and say, you know what, I'm British. So what? Being British and not being a human being? Being British and not being courageous? Being British and not being able to speak the truth? If this is the way you think you are going to be British, forget about that. Forget about that, because you have to be two things. British fully, Muslim fully, and a human being. Means courageous. Speak the truth and be with your brothers and sisters with humility, with open-mindedness, and with struggling for justice every day of our life. This is what is unity. This is what is moderation. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam. Wassalamu alaikum.